footsteps stopped, and I swear, just beyond the door, I heard breathing. I turned. He was standing in the exact spot I just walked through. That night, I dreamt of footsteps in my room, slow, steady, circling my bed. When I woke up, my bedroom window was open. That's the man who watches me draw. He doesn't come close, he just stands there. That night, I heard the second voice. It wasn't a whisper, it was a full sentence, spoken clearly, just outside my bedroom window. Hey, hello, welcome to ASMRk. I hope you're doing good. Today's video, as always, is another compilation of scary stories that have been taken from Reddit. There is 5 in total. Let's get straight to the first one. I hope you enjoy. About a year ago, I started volunteering at a small community outreach centre on the outskirts of town. It wasn't anything dramatic, mostly stuck in the food pantry and organising winter gear. I signed up because I'd just moved back home after a rough breakup, and I needed something to fill the time while I figured my life out. The coordinator, Linda, was nice enough. She said the night shifts were quiet and I'd probably just be sorting canned goods or folding clothes until midnight. The centre was in an older building, an old schoolhouse that had been converted in the early 2000s. You could still see the outlines of chalkboards on the walls and faded fire exit signs above sealed off doors. But it was clean, bright enough, and usually warm, even in November. My first few shifts were uneventful. I liked the solitude, honestly. I'd play music quietly on my phone, work through shelves of donated jackets, and be out by midnight. Linda told me to always clock out by then. She was weirdly specific about it. There's no reason to be here past 12, she said once, while smiling. The building gets cold after that. I laughed it off, assuming she meant literally. The place had an old boiler system that rattled like a dying animal if you listened close enough. It made sense that heat wouldn't keep up overnight. Still, her wording stuck with me. My 5th or 6th shift was when things started to feel off. Around 11:40, I was stacking some boxes of donated dry goods in the back hallway near what used to be the school's east wing. That part of the building was sealed. The doors were changed shut from the inside, with faded signs reading "condemned" taped across them. Linda said it was just unused space and had weak floorboards. I never thought much of it. That night, I heard footsteps coming from the other side of those chained doors. They were light, deliberate, like someone walking barefoot on linoleum. I froze, box in hand, and listened. The footsteps stopped, and I swear, just beyond the door, I heard breathing. I backed away slowly, didn't say a word, didn't even breathe. I just left the box where it was and returned to the main area where the lights were brightest. I didn't tell anyone, but something changed after that. The next night, I felt like I was being watched, not just a vague feeling either. I kept hearing someone shift behind me, shelves creaking in other rooms, movement in the ceiling. I even found a jacket in the lost and found bin that I know I didn't put there. A pale pink windbreaker that smelled like old perfume and dust. It was damp too, like someone had just taken it off. I stayed until 11:58, just shy of midnight, and then I left. One night, Linda didn't show up to check me out, which she always did. I waited until midnight, and then decided to just sign the logbook myself and go. The logbook was in a little cabinet at the front desk, and as I flipped to the current page, something caught my eye. There were signatures from other volunteers, names I didn't recognise, all logging shifts well past midnight. 1:24 a.m, 3:17 a.m, 4:03 a.m. And next to some of the names, Linda had written the word returned in shaky handwriting. Just that one word, no check mark, no time out, just returned. It made no sense. I took a picture of the page with my phone just in case. Then, as I was putting the book back, something knocked loudly from the inside of the east wing. Not a tap, not a creak. It was a knock. Clear, 3 times, and then again, like someone was pounding their fists on the metal from deep inside the wall. I left. I didn't clock out. I didn't even turn the lights off. And I didn't go back in the next day. About a week later, I got a call from Linda's number. It was about 2 a.m. I didn't answer, obviously. But the voicemail she left was just the sound of breathing. Slow, wet, rasping breathing. I could hear faint clicking in the background, like nails tapping on wood. It lasted 42 seconds. The next morning, I went to the centre to quit in person. The building was closed, windows papered over. A small sign was taped to the door. Closed until further notice. Thank you for your patience. I tried to contact the volunteer coordinator at the city office, just to explain I wouldn't be coming back. When I gave them my name, there was a pause. The woman on the other end asked me to repeat it. Then she said, "We don't have you on the volunteer roster. Are you sure it was the Newton Outreach Centre?" I said yes. I even described Linda, her face, her voice. There was silence again. Then she said, "Linda Mayers passed away 2 years ago. She was a lovely woman. She had a heart attack, right at the desk," they said. She hung up before I could ask anything else. That night, I looked at the photo I took of the logbook. The page was blank. No names, no signatures, no word returned. Just a faint red fingerprint at the bottom corner of the page. I haven't gone back to that side of town since. I don't even walk near the building, and I never, ever stay anywhere unfamiliar past midnight, because I don't think I left that building alone. I used to walk home from work every night. I worked in a small print shop downtown. Nothing fancy, but I like the rhythm of closing up late and stepping out into the quiet streets. The route home took me about 35 minutes if I stuck to the main roads, but I usually shaved off 10 by cutting through a large city park. It It wasn't a proper shortcut, more like a long, paved path that weaved through open fields, sparse trees, and a few playgrounds. It was well lit, mostly empty, and honestly, it was kind of peaceful. I'd been walking that path 5 nights a week for almost a year, and I'd never had any reason to feel unsafe. That was until last February. It was a Thursday, cold but not unbearable. I'd stayed late after a printer jammed on a client's order, so I didn't lock up until just after 11. By the time I made it to the park entrance, the streets behind me were empty, and the lights in the surrounding apartment blocks were mostly dark. I slipped in my earbuds and started my usual walk through the park, hands in my coat pockets, thinking about nothing in particular. That's when I noticed him. A man standing about 40 feet off the path to my left. He was just standing there in open grass, not near a bench, not walking a dog, just standing. I only noticed him because one of the park's tall floodlights lit up his outline. He looked like he was facing the path, facing me, though I couldn't make out his face. I slowed down just slightly, then I raised a hand in a polite little wave, and he waved back. It wasn't fast or casual, it was deliberate, a long, slow wave. I nodded and kept walking, trying to shake off the sudden chill that hit me. I turned to glance over my shoulder, maybe 10 seconds later, but he wasn't there. The next night, I didn't see him. I thought maybe I'd imagined it, or misinterpreted a jogger stretching, or someone just standing in the wrong spot at the wrong time. Still, I stuck to the main road that night, no shortcut. But Friday night, I was exhausted. We'd had a rush order come in just before close, and I didn't want to tack another 15 minutes onto my walk. I took the shortcut again. About halfway through the park, just as I was passing a frozen water fountain, I felt it again. That weird pressure. That feeling you get when you know someone's looking at you. I scanned the field to my right this time, and there he was again, standing even farther from the path now, in the field behind the basketball diamond. No movement, no sound, just a silhouette at the edge of the trees. I stopped. Again, I raised a hand, half as a test, half as a reflex, and he raised his hand and waved back. Same way, same slow, even motion. Not friendly, not threatening, just wrong. This time, I didn't look away. I stared for at least a minute, and then, very slowly, he stepped backward. 1 step, 2, 3, until he disappeared into the tree line without breaking eye contact. I didn't take the park route again for a week, but it haunted me, the way he moved, the way he mirrored my wave, the way he stood too still, like someone pretending to know how people act, and not quite pulling it off. The following Thursday, I decided I needed to know if he was real, if this was a person messing with me. So I brought a small flashlight and a pair of binoculars I used for bird watching in the spring. I took the shortcut again, this time keeping to the very centre of the path, walking slower than usual. I scanned the fields as I walked. Nothing. I passed the spot by the water fountain. Still nothing. I was about to give up when I heard something behind me. Not footsteps, presence again, like something tugging at my spine. I turned. He was standing in the exact spot I just walked through. Closer than ever now, maybe 20 feet, just watching. I raised my hand, but he didn't wave back this time. He copied me. Exactly. Not a wave, an exact mirror of my gesture. Same hand, same angle, same pace. Like looking in a broken mirror, like he was learning me. I lowered my hand slowly, so did he. I turned and walked the rest of the way out of the park without running. When I reached the main road, I stopped and looked back. He was standing in the entrance now, and he waved again. That was 3 months ago. I changed my route permanently. No more shortcuts, no more late night walks. I even started driving to and from work. But I still see him, in places that don't make sense. In the crowd at the grocery store, standing between 2 aisles and watching me. Outside my gym, reflected in the mirror beside the treadmills. Across the street when I'm pumping gas. Never closer than 30 feet, never touching anything. Always watching. He still waves. Only now, sometimes, he waves first. I don't know what he is, or why he picked me, but I know I'm not imagining him, because 2 nights ago, I showed a co-worker the shortcut through the park on Google Maps, and when I dropped into Street View, there he was, a man standing in the middle of the empty basketball diamond, waving. When I was 19, I worked evenings at a bakery on the edge of a small town. My shift ended around 10 p.m, and since I didn't have a car back then, I'd walk the 2 miles back to my house. It wasn't far, 25 minutes tops, and most of the route was through quiet residential streets. By mid-November, those walks got cold. The sidewalks were empty. Most houses had already gone dark by the time I passed, and I learned to enjoy the silence, the rhythm of my boots on concrete, the little puffs of breath in the cold air. Then, one night, I realised I wasn't walking alone. It was very subtle, a second pair of footsteps, just far enough behind that I couldn't tell if it was an echo or someone pacing me. I slowed, they slowed, I sped up, so did they. Always the same rhythm, like someone mimicking me, just out of view. The first time it happened, I stopped completely and turned around. No one there, no wind, no night joggers, just a long stretch of empty sidewalk and a flickering street lamp 2 blocks down. I didn't run home. I didn't want to look paranoid, but I walked faster, and the second I shut the front door behind me, I locked it and peered out through the mail slot. Still nothing. It didn't happen every night. Sometimes I'd hear the footsteps halfway through the walk, sometimes not at all. But when I did, they always came from behind, always matching my pace. Not gaining, not falling back, like someone walking just fast enough to stay close without getting caught. After a week or 2, I started leaving work a little earlier to avoid it. It didn't help. The footsteps returned on a Monday night, just as I passed the old greenhouse on Deerfield Road. I glanced over my shoulder. This time, there was someone. A man, mid-30s maybe, wearing a thick jacket with his hood up, head down. He was walking about 50 feet behind me. I slowed to test if he'd pass. He didn't. He slowed too. When I stopped, so did he. Same rhythm, same silence. I called out, "Hey, do you need something?" No answer. Just the sound of him shifting his weight from one foot to another, back and forth. I moved again, so did he. So I cut across someone's yard, broke into a light jog, and didn't stop until I was 2 blocks from home. I only looked back once. He was still on the sidewalk, still walking, still watching. After that, I asked my dad to pick me up at night. I didn't tell him why. I just said the sidewalks were too icy. That worked for a few days. Then Friday rolled around. He was stuck at work, and my mum didn't drive at night. So I walked, hood up, headphones out. At first, everything was fine. But just as I turned onto Maple Ridge, the halfway point, I saw him again. Not behind me this time, ahead, standing perfectly still near a lamppost. His hood was still up, but I could tell he was watching me. I crossed the street. He didn't move. I walked past, kept my eyes forward. But the moment I turned the corner, I heard the footsteps behind me again. Fast, not running, just determined. I made it home in under 10 minutes, slammed the door, and turned off the porch light. That night, I dreamt of footsteps in my room, slow, steady, circling my bed. When I woke up, my bedroom window was open. I never opened that window. I stopped walking to work after that. I took buses, got rides, did everything I could to avoid that stretch of road. A few weeks later, my manager pulled me aside and said someone had come by asking for me. A man in a hooded coat. Said he just wanted to make sure I got home safe. She said he was polite but weird. Didn't give a name, just asked what time I usually left. She told him I had family picking me up now. He nodded and left. I asked what he looked like, but she couldn't say. Said his hood was up the whole time. That night, when I got home, I found something tucked under the doormat. A single sheet of paper. No name, no handwriting, just typed letters. I walk with you, so you're never alone. You're welcome. I stayed with a friend for a week after that, but it didn't help, because 2 nights ago, my roommate said she saw someone standing at the edge of our driveway just after dark. Just standing, not moving, not talking, just waiting. We used to live in a 2-story house that backed on to a dense strip of woods. Not remote, this was just outside a mid-sized city in Ohio, but enough trees that it felt like you were alone once you stepped past the tree line. Cut through that patch of forest and you'd find a narrow dirt track, probably once used for maintenance vehicles or bikes decades ago. By the time we moved in, it was just a fading trail, swallowed by bramble and low trees. But my daughter Lucy loved it. She was 10, quiet kid, thoughtful. She'd take a little spiral-bound notebook with her and sketch flowers, mushrooms, bugs, whatever she found. I was fine with it, as long as she didn't go far. She was always back by dinner as well, so it was fine. Then, about a month after we moved in, she started saying there was a man out there. Not scary, she said one night at the table. He walks weird though, like he's tired. My wife and I exchanged a glance, but neither of us wanted to spook her. I figured maybe she'd seen a homeless person or someone cutting through the woods. I walked the trail myself the next morning. Nothing. I found a drawing tucked under her pillow. She hadn't meant to hide it. It just fell when I was changing her sheets. It was done in black ink. Unlike her usual sketches, this one wasn't soft or sweet. The lines were angry and frantic. And at the centre was a man, tall, with a long face and wide black circles where the eyes should have been. His arms hung strangely low, almost reaching his knees, and behind him, trees, the same ones behind our house. I called Lucy into the room, sat her down gently. "Who's this?" She hesitated and then said, "That's the man who watches me draw. He doesn't come close. He just stands there." I asked how often she saw him. She shrugged. Most days. That night, I went to Home Depot and installed a latch lock on the back fence. Figured if some weirdo was out there, that I'd keep it off the property. I also installed a trail cam just beyond the tree line, facing the path. I didn't tell Lucy that though. The next morning, the latch was still locked, but the trail cam, it was gone. Clean off the tree, screws still in place, strap unbuckled and folded neatly beneath it. A week later, Lucy stopped drawing. She stopped going outside at all. Wouldn't eat much, barely spoke. I caught her staring out the back window one night. Her eyes were glassy, locked on something in the trees. "What are you looking at, baby?" She didn't answer. She just whispered, "He's closer now." I grabbed a flashlight and went out myself, marched down the trail, scanning every shadow. I stayed out there for an hour. No one. But as I turned to walk back toward the house, I froze. I couldn't hear the bugs anymore. No rustling, no breeze. Just silence, heavy and unnatural, like the air had thickened somehow. I spun around. Nothing, but I felt it. That awful instinct that something was watching me. Something not quite out of sight. I didn't run, I didn't want to, but I walked faster than I ever had. The whole time, I could swear I heard something breathing behind me. A few nights later, I heard Lucy crying in her room. She was huddled in the corner, her hands clamped over her ears. She kept saying, "Make him stop, make him stop." We took her to the therapist the next day. She didn't say a word the whole drive, but while she was in her session, I checked her room again. Not to snoop, just to see, to try and understand. I found a second notebook behind her dresser. Every page had that same man, tall, thin, wide eyes. But this time, he wasn't just standing. He was closer each time. One drawing per day, it looked like. He went from standing deep in the woods to right at the tree line, then the backyard, then the porch. The last page. It was him, inside her room, smiling. I dropped the notebook and went back to the window. Nothing. But when I looked again an hour later, the notebook was gone. I didn't move it, my wife didn't move it, and Lucy had been with us the whole time. We left the house 3 days later, and here's the part I still can't explain. Before we moved out, I walked the trail one last time. Just a goodbye kind of thing. But when I got to the bend in the path, there was something stuck to a tree, taped there. It was a page from Lucy's notebook, just a scribbled drawing of me walking alone, and something just behind me. a small town in northern Minnesota, the kind of place where everyone waves and nothing ever really happens. Our house sat on the edge of a long, thin stretch of woods that separated us from an old, abandoned farmstead. Nothing left of it now but a collapsed barn and some rusted fencing, but when I was a kid, we weren't supposed to cross into that land. It wasn't about trespassing. My dad just had a rule: never go past the tree with the split trunk. He told me when I was 6. That's the property line. Nothing good lives beyond it. And that's how he said it too. Lives. I asked why once. He paused and then said, "You ever hear something calling your name out there, you come straight back home." It sounded like one of those vague, eerie warnings adults give to keep kids in check, like don't swim after eating or your stomach will explode. So I didn't question it, not until I was 17. It started on a dry August evening. I'd gone for a walk with my dog Casey, just killing time before dinner. We followed the path through the woods behind the house like we'd done hundreds of times before. I stopped where the split tree was. It was easy to spot, like a massive trunk had been torn down the middle by lightning, each half reaching in opposite directions. But Casey didn't stop. He kept walking, slow, ears perked, sniffed the air and crept past the invisible line. I hesitated, then followed. 30 feet in, the woods suddenly felt different, quieter, like the air itself had thickened. Even the birds had stopped. And then I heard it. My name, whispered. I whipped around, but no one was there. Just trees leaning in slightly, like they were listening too. It didn't sound like a person, not exactly. It sounded like someone trying to sound like me, as if my name had bounced off someone else's mouth and returned changed. Casey growled once, low and uncertain, then bolted, just turned and sprinted back toward the house. I didn't wait and I followed. That night I dreamt of the split tree, except in the dream it wasn't split, it was open, like two hands parting, and beyond it was something crouched just out of view, watching me. I woke up sweating, mouth dry, and when I sat up, I saw a piece of paper on my desk, a scrap torn from a notebook. On it was a crude sketch, drawn in black pen. It was me, standing in front of the tree. But the drawing showed something else too. A long figure, crouched just behind the split, thin and boneless, head too smooth. I don't know who put it there. No one else had been in my room. The windows were locked, but I found dirt on the windowsill, just a smear, like something had rested a hand there. The next week I stayed away from the woods, but I kept hearing things, little things. A knock on my bedroom wall when no one was there. The back door swinging open at night, even after I latched it. The whisper of my name while brushing my teeth. My mum thought I was stressed from college. My dad, though, he was different. When I finally told him, he didn't look surprised. He looked disappointed. "You crossed the line," he said, jaw clenched. "Didn't you?" I nodded. He said, "You don't listen to the first voice. That's how it knows who you are." I asked what it was. He just said, "Something that once in. That night, I heard the second voice. It wasn't a whisper, it was a full sentence, spoken clearly, just outside my bedroom window. I'm closer now. I didn't sleep, and when morning came, the window was unlocked, open just an inch, like someone had tried to lift it and stopped. I moved out a year later, but sometimes when I dream, I still see that tree. So that concludes today's video. I hope you enjoyed all of these stories. Please do let me know in the comments what your favourite type of story is. Do you like cryptids, hauntings, paranormal stories, creepy encounters? Like I said, let me know in the comments. Thank you, and I will see you soon.